And I think what I'd like to do next, hopefully, is find time for the board to meet with GCI and get an understanding of the methodology that they plan to use in order to take the data we've already collected since the pilot began and give us some sort of interim analysis of how they think the pilot has gone at the two schools, and to hear from the researchers if they think adding additional schools, including Linda Brill, or extending the pilot would make sense in terms of creating some sort of a randomized control trial. For example, if we expanded to Linda Brill, that's a similar size school to Boston, and we don't have very many other similar size schools that could be used as a control and a comparison school. So I think I would feel a lot more comfortable with the board, perhaps at our next board retreat, I think, which is next week, if GCI is available, having some time to hear what methodology they proposed based on the data the district has already collected, and if they propose any additional collection of information to make sure we have a statistically significant pilot study.
Understood, Member Marquez, but I think that if we have more data coming from more sources, that will help us in understanding what we're getting, and seeing as though the staff at Linda Brill and some of the parents in our last meeting asked us to do this, and we have the equipment to do so, I don't see where that would be a problem, adding that and having more data come to us. We've already set the parameters on what we want to see coming from this pilot program, so I don't see that would be a problem or an issue by adding Linda Brill.
Further discussion? Nope. Okay. Motion has been made by Board Member Oliver, seconded by Board Member Para. On the motion, those in favor indicate by please saying aye. We'll do a roll call vote, and of course nay if you are opposed. Board Member Para.
Aye.
Board Member Hernandez.
Nay.
Board Member Oliver.
Aye.
Board Member Marquez.
Nay.
And myself is a nay. Leela Alston and Nikita Ross are not here. The motion does not pass. Next item is 12B, update and discussion of Phoenix delegation visit to City or Tulsa. Ms. Andrade.
Okay, on November 6th and 7th, Member Oliver, President Napa, and Ms. Ross went, and myself, as well as leaders from Central High School and the Osborne School District, visited Tulsa Public Schools and the City Year program. But because not everyone on the board attended, those who did participate were asking to share their recommendations, information, and just reactions overall. Also would like at this point to invite Principal Jacob Lambert up to the podium to be able to share as well his perspective. Always important to get the principal's perspective. And just again, wanted to set aside time to share, discuss, and instruct on next steps if needed, and just not leave it kind of out there. So with that said, let's start off by hearing from Mr. Lambert. City Year, Tulsa.
All right, thank you. President Napa, new President Napa, Clerk Marquez, Superintendent Andrade, ladies of the board. So I was very fortunate to go visit the City Year program with a few members of our board. On my trip, I was looking at it along with my freshman house coordinator from the perspective of campus implementation, as well as kind of usefulness where it could apply. We were also joined by our Osborne Middle School, Solano Elementary School principal, and Osborne Middle School principal, Carol Hayes. So some of the first things that were really clear was this was a set of young adults that signed up for a quasi-youth mentorship / tutoring tiered intervention support program that they receive extensive training throughout the summer prior to starting, where it was very clear that they were there for the right reasons. They were very excited to work with their students in Tulsa, and I just immediately envisioned the idea of having anywhere between 6 to 10 extra set of hands, eyes, and ears inside of my freshman classrooms, and I couldn't imagine any of my teachers or any of my campus members being disappointed with having more support. So not only were they providing tiered academic interventions inside of the classroom, they were able to pull out students and do small group instruction under supervision in different setups, as well as they had a very robust tracking system for how they were working with students that had been identified as needing either academic support, social emotional support, or just check-ins due to various reasons like attendance, coming back from in-school suspensions or referrals, checking in with students when they are not on campus virtually, all of those things. So it was very clear from the second that the students walked in the door that the City Year delegation was there. They were excited to see you. They were smiling. They had lots of cool things that they were doing, all the way until the end of the day when they would do their debrief through their point system and their tracking. So I know from a campus implementation standpoint, I would be incredibly excited. Some of the hidden factors that looked really exciting about the program, just talking to the principal on our shadow, she said that they've had a large or a significant enough number of City Year delegates eventually turn into teachers inside of their school district. And I know that in itself as a principal is really exciting, getting an opportunity to get young adults into our classrooms, experience what teaching is like, the impact that they have, and then turning those individuals into our teachers. And additionally, if we were to move forward, the idea of partnering with, specifically for us, partnering with Osborne Middle School, I think it benefits us twofold. One, it helps us with that transition. As you guys know, we're not a unified school district, but the idea of our City Year delegates being able to kind of collaborate and really work on transitioning. These are the things that we did to support our #1 feeder school, Osborne Middle School, anywhere between 220 to 240 students, as well as I forgot what my last point was going to be, but overall it was very exciting, and it was an opportunity for us. I'm hoping it's an opportunity for us in the future. I know there's some other things that need to be discussed and figured out and all that good stuff, but from a campus standpoint, we'd be incredibly excited, and we would sign up first if possible to be the pilot for this program. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.
So with that said, does the board want to share any of their reactions from the visit or next steps as far as in the process? Would you like to have City Year come present to the rest of the board? There's many options we can take at this point.
Yeah, I would just like to add, the experience was very comprehensive. We got to see elementary, middle, and high school interactions with City Year, and it was very, very impressive. One of the things that we did have many questions on is, how do we pay for it? Which is always a consideration, and they have a comprehensive plan for funding, helping us find funding sources and that sort of thing. And I will add just this little dig. One of the schools that we saw them greeting the students as they were coming in, they came in through weapons detection systems, and it was very smooth and equitable.
I think what was most impressive about the trip to City Year was the fact that this program was a early warning indicator. There were interventions for students, whether, I believe math and science, English, reading, and students who were not performing at the level that they should be, they had one-on-one time with their city year coach. And so they were able to have time one-on-one outside of the classroom to get where they needed to be. And, you know, putting this in a freshman house, I think makes sense. The first year is so important to determine that graduation rate, right? To get our student from first day freshman year to the walking across for graduation. I was very impressed. You know, coming from a AmeriCorps background with public allies, I am always, you know, in support of these federal type of programs, these service programs. On the other side, you know, the schools are going to be in, have to have the salaries, right? But the salaries, as far as I know, are livable, living allowances versus, you know, having, hiring someone full-time. That brings to mind a equity issue. But in my mind and in my experience as a AmeriCorps member, is that the salary, yes, you do work for a very reduced livable wage, but the medical is medical insurance is handled by the program. There is an Eli Siegel Award after they complete their term of service. When I did my first year, it was about $6,600. My second year was closer to $7,000 or more than $7,000. So the professional development. These city year members are not going into the classroom unprepared. There's continual professional development to make sure that they are meeting the needs of those students. So yeah, fully support, and I really do hope that we get this program into our district.
Clerk Napa?
Yes.
I did not attend the Tulsa trip, but I did spend 2 years as a City Year Corps member before college, working with middle school and high school youth in Boston public schools. And I would say that my 2 years of City Year as an AmeriCorps member were more formative than the 15 years that I've spent in the United States Army. So I'm incredibly, happy to hear that the board members that went to Tulsa enjoyed getting to know the City Year Corps members and staff. I know the Osborne School Board had City Year present virtually at their December meeting after the trip to Tulsa. I think a possible next step would be to see if City Year staff is available for the entire board, whether they're available in person or virtually in February or March. And I think it would be really helpful if the superintendent and staff could draft some sort of a resolution that we might consider at that time. That would be non-binding, but show our support for City Year to continue exploring the opportunity to come to Phoenix. The way most AmeriCorps programs work is there's sort of a three-legged funding stool of federal AmeriCorps dollars, so it's money we wouldn't already be getting to add value to our district. And then school districts put up a third of the funding to support the program. And then City Year would have to go out and raise private sector funding from the Arizona philanthropic community and some of their national corporate sponsors as well, I think would be interested in coming to Phoenix. But I think a resolution showing our support would go a long way in terms of helping City Year take concrete next steps to come to Phoenix and come to our school district.
All right. Thank you so much. Any further discussion or questions? All right. Moving on, the next item is 12D, update and discussion of the superintendent search process with potential action. Mr. Juvenal Lopez, Chief Development Officer, will introduce our search firm representatives. Mr. Lopez.
C.
Did I skip
Sorry,
C?
yeah, there's a professional development.
Oh, thank you. I did. 12C, discussion of governing board professional development process with potential action. Ms. Andrade.
Yeah, thank you, President Napa. This should be fairly quick. As you know, we've had an opportunity to hear from the Council of Great City Schools. I believe A.J. Crable came to see us, school board partners came to see us, and we recently released an RFQ with a scope of work for continued professional development. But again, I recommend, in light of the permanent superintendent search and being at this point in the school year, I would recommend that we set some time aside either on January 19th to maybe discuss further professional development for this board and some targets or goals that they want to set for 23 or 24, 25 in preparation. Again, in the meantime, we can continue to have independent board professional development, which many of you already take advantage of. We've got the Council of Great City Schools legislative conference coming up in March, which is a great opportunity to attend and see what's on the legislative policy side. But again, we can discuss whether it's an independent consultant or someone coming in maybe as early as the April retreat to really work around guiding us around next steps in goal development and student outcomes. But again, want to hear from the board around their ideas for next steps for your own development.
Okay. I looked at our current policies related to board professional development, and I made some suggested changes, and I wouldn't recommend us taking action, but I would be happy to work with any board members and our two, the governing board attorney and the district attorney, on wordsmithing this language for a first read potentially in February. We have two policies that specifically relate to board professional development. The first is BIB, and from what I can tell, this is a school board association policy that we've adopted to comply with state law. I would ask our two attorneys to give us some guidance on, if we need to have that as a board policy, or we just need to understand what current state law is. If you want to comment now or at a later time.
Given that this wasn't published, let's not discuss it now. And I just want to remind the board that although you want to work with board members on revising and discussing those, be aware of the open meeting law. Even those discussions, given that this will eventually come back to the board, there should not be a quorum of the board involved in those discussions.
Absolutely. And then the second policy is BIBA, which relates to board member conferences, conventions, and workshops. And I think there's probably a way we could combine the two policies into one board member professional development policy. And this just adds a bunch of language that clarifies specifically what types of trainings we think every board member should get at the beginning of their term and every 4 years if they continue to get reelected. And then also types of training that board members can go out and get on their own for conferences like NALEO or CUBE, Council of Great City Schools, and then setting a budget. So I left the numbers blank for a budget of how much each year we should expect board members to be able to spend. And it's just, XXX is what I put. But I think if you're traveling out of state for conferences, it could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year, depending on how many conferences we think is reasonable for board members to go to. And then I also put a XXX for, setting a number as a board for collective board professional development, whether we choose AJ or coaching, making sure that's clear and in policy.
And just to clarify, given that you may have comments and to avoid any open meeting law, let's have the comments go through the district's lawyer, Eileen. So if you can give your comments and your thoughts to her, then she will make sure that that open meeting law and that she compiles them for your consideration. I think that's the best way, because otherwise, if you act as the central, if you get comments from a quorum, we will have an open meeting law problem.
Okay. I like that. Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah. So given that, if you have comments on this draft, I would hope that we could have a draft that's, maybe me and Eileen can work on together and collect everybody's feedback so that we can have a first read of a policy to sort of drive, one individual board training and then collective training that we choose. And I think that's in particularly important as we select a permanent superintendent to have board professional development defined in a way that hopefully, we take that professional development to help us set tangible districts for the goal that are tied to the superintendent's evaluation, and that we can, have ready for the next permanent superintendent to take action on. So I sort of see this as a 6 months process, maybe carving out some time maybe a little bit of time at the January retreat, and then maybe a lot of time at our April retreat focused specifically on district-wide goals. And then that way, by our July retreat, we have a new superintendent in place, and we have, 3 to 5 tangible goals that we're setting as a board based on professional development that all of us have sought, and based on what we think is what we ran for in terms of serving this district.
President Nava and Superintendent Andrade and Clerk Marquez, I'd also like to add that if we could have the district, because of the budget constraints we're already under, give us some realistic idea of a budget for professional development for the board, because if, the money's not there, I don't want to put us further in a situation. Okay.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. My only comment related to board professional development is I highly encourage Superintendent Andrade, President Napa to connect with our partner districts, Creighton's board president and superintendent, Phoenix Elementary's board president and superintendent, and Roosevelt School District's board president and superintendent, as a conversation about what they are doing. They have adopted the student outcomes focused governance framework and are doing really incredible work to get stakeholder feedback and make sure that board meetings are aligned to student outcomes. And so I would love for us to mirror what our sister districts are doing, because that will ultimately allow all of us to focus on improving student academic achievement while we are also collectively engaging families and having them be part of the process about what we want to see in the future of Phoenix Union. So I highly encourage conversations with those 3 leadership, board and superintendent leaders who are going above and beyond and really leading the field, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this board PD.
Thank you, Board Member Para. And the 3 districts are Creighton, Phoenix Elementary, and Roosevelt. Thank you. Anything further? All right. Now 12D, update and discussion of the superintendent search process with potential action. Mr. Juvenal Lopez, Chief Development Officer, will introduce our search firm representatives. Mr. Lopez.
Good evening, President Napa, Governing Board, Superintendent Andrade, Executive Team, staff, community members, and parents. This evening, HIA Superintendent Search Team is joining us virtually and will provide us with important updates and insights specific to the multiple engagement opportunities we've provided to our PXU community during Phase 1 and 2 of this important initiative. In addition, important upcoming dates and events will be reviewed and highlighted, ensuring that the calendar of planned events is up to date. And with that, I'd like to turn the mic over to Dr. Christine McDuffie for this important update.
Search. I'm here this evening virtually with my colleagues, Carmela Franco and John Bash, and we wanted to focus our remarks this evening on how well things have been going, first and foremost. And we would like to share some updates regarding recruitment and engagement, and then talk a little bit about the calendar and next steps. So we'll start with a recruiting update with Carmela Franco.
Thank you, Chris. And good evening, members of the board, staff, and audience. I'm pleased to share the recruitment update thus far with you and have some interesting information to share to kick that off. As of January 8th, there have been 935 visits to the Phoenix position announcement on the HYA website. That means 935 people have been interested enough to take a look at it, and we're really pleased with that. We're working with multiple networks to identify and recruit and become aware of recommended candidates who we should contact. So that's been a plus. Approximately 30 prospective candidates have been contacted directly by us, and there are follow-up discussions that will be continuing to be scheduled, including some in-person meetings. And some prospective candidates have not yet formally applied, but we're gauging their interest and answering their questions and touching bases with them. And we anticipate completed applications will increase, in particular with the release of the leadership profile report, and that's scheduled for January 19th. We have prospective candidates that we have spoken with who are waiting for that information, so it's very important. They want to know what staff, community, students, and other interested parties have thought about the next superintendent. And of the prospective candidates that we've contacted to date, about half are leaders in Arizona and the other half serving in other states across the nation. As the posting closes a month from tomorrow, February 12th, we're going to continue the work of identifying and recruiting top candidates for this part of the search process. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmela. Now we'll ask our colleague John Bash to update you on the engagement efforts underway.
Great. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right. On December 20th, we sent the board a written update summarizing the engagement effort to that point. And we were extremely pleased with the students, staff, and community members we were able to meet with. Across multiple sessions, we had a total of 388 participants across all those listening sessions and 3 open community forums. And we want to really compliment district staff and your technology team who helped facilitate multiple ways to participate, including a remote option for those who couldn't attend in person. I won't be going through the entire list of groups that we met with, but again, a special thank you to Juve and the liaisons we're working with at the district that helped contact folks and schedule them for our visits in December. Particularly the student groups that we met with who had valuable information to share. And so we're excited to formalize the leadership profile report that we'll be presenting to the board next week, summarizing the strongest themes we heard. In addition to the listening sessions and forums, the board did elect to administer a stakeholder survey that recently closed. We had 1,505 responses to that survey. The largest group in the survey were parents or guardians of currently enrolled students, right at 40%. And then almost a third of the respondents were certified or licensed teaching staff at 32%. And then the third largest group was current or former students at 12.7%. We are wrapping up some final listening sessions with higher education and feeder district partners. Again, another list of folks and contact information provided by the district. So total engagement participation as of January 8th is 1,893 people. We mentioned earlier to the board that we like to target approximately 10% of the student population in a district for engagement participation, but that does vary, and we're feeling really good about the number of people that came out to share their perspectives with us. I think that's what I have. Chris.
Okay. Thank you, John. And finally, we wanted to just give a preview of next steps. As was mentioned, we're really looking forward to seeing you in person next Friday, January 19th, for us to present to you the leadership profile report that summarizes all of the feedback we've been receiving in this engagement phase. And then beyond that, obviously recruitment and pre-screening of candidates will continue vigorously over the next month. And as Carmela mentioned, the position does close 1 month from tomorrow. So it's fast approaching. And we will be bringing you the candidates who have completed applications on the 23rd of February. First round interviews, the 29th. And then, of course, we're holding March 4, 5, and 6 for finalist interviews. So we're moving along, making great progress. And we so appreciate the, again, support of staff and the direction of the governing board. It's been such a pleasure to work with all of you. We'd like to open it up for any questions you might have for us at this time.
Board members, any questions? No. I have a question of clarification. When we first met back in November 13th, I remember the board took a vote mainly at the mainly because it was mentioned by our consulting firm. Do we want the candidate to live in PXU district? And I believe we took a vote on that, and the vote was to approve, and the candidate has to live within, or the preferred candidate needs to live within PXU boundaries. I feel that that's unnecessary. Can you confirm that that's something, I was looking at the website and I'm not seeing that in the in the eligibility.
In the posting?
Yes.
And I don't have that in front of me. I'm looking to John or Carmela. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't believe it's in the posting, but typically, once the board identifies a candidate of choice, a part of the negotiation process is visiting with candidates regarding the residency requirement. Occasionally, you'll have a candidate that has circumstances that might require a grace period before they can relocate. For example, selling a home and purchasing a new home. That's a pretty common occurrence if they're not already living in the area. So we typically see that discussion occur, but we do convey as we conduct our recruiting visits with candidates that it is the board's desire that candidates live within the district.
Any questions?
Madam
Board
President,
Member
I guess the way this agenda item, has potential action, is that an action that we want to clarify that they live in the greater Phoenix area and have that put on the posting, or do we want to wait until we identify candidates?
I feel since we took a vote that we should correct that vote, because it's my feeling that the superintendent position is not an elected position. There is no residency requirements. To require someone to uproot from Tempe to live in Central Phoenix, I think is unreasonable. So therefore, I move to change the residency requirements for the superintendent from required to live within PXU boundaries to required to live in the greater Phoenix area. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Hernandez. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And President Napa, if we could circle back to the meeting next Friday, the 19th. Speaking of taking action, Dr. Lopez mentioned that you took formal action also on much of the calendar, but it sounds like you didn't officially endorse our presentation of the leadership profile report for next Friday. So I would defer to Dr. Lopez or SB for direction on whether actual action is necessary.
Superintendent?
I would go ahead and make a motion to reaffirm this current timeline so that it's renewed and adopted. Thank you.
Do I have a motion? Thank you, Board Member Oliver. Second? Thank you, Board Member Hernandez. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
That's all we have for now, and we look forward to seeing you next Friday. Thank you all, and we are also endorsing the recognition of Governing Boards Month. So you are an amazing group of leaders for your community. Thank you. Pleasure working with you.
Thank you so much. Moving on. E, approval of revised governing board policy IJOA and name change on first reading from field trips to student travel. Is there a motion to approve the revised governing board policy and its name change?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Marquez. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Oliver. The motion has been made by Board Member Marquez and seconded by Board Member Oliver. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Jenny, Board Member Hernandez raised her hand
sorry.
first.
Thank you, President Napa. I just have a few clarifying questions. I know this was a very needed policy change, and I'm very grateful that it's on the agenda today for approval, and I'm glad we approved it. Are we notifying parents and families of this change? That's my first question. Will this policy be in the handbook, and will it require parents to sign it in order for it to be approved through them? Because I know sometimes in the handbook you have to sign. So those are my questions.
President Napa and members of the board, that's a great question. When we go to adopt this policy, we will enact the effective date. It is not going to be immediately because the procedural handbooks and process mid-year will need to be adopted and aligned so that we roll it out with a new school year and gives ample time for that parent communication into the student family handbook, et cetera. So upon final adoption, we'll probably move this to be either at the start of the school year, whatever that date is in August, or end of July.
Perfect. And because it's going to be in the handbook, it is in Spanish, correct? It will be in Spanish, provided in Spanish.
Yes, of course, we'll have that version. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Oliver.
Yes. Under the types of trip, under field trip, there's some language about approval of a parent or guardian to have a student ride in a private vehicle. I was wondering if we could add some additional language about insurance and licensing and making sure that there's in those private vehicles, there's a stipulation that the vehicle's insured and the person is properly licensed?
Thank you, Board Member Oliver. That would be in the procedural guidelines
Okay,
that will be accompanying this at a later date.
okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussions? All right. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, item 12F, approval of the revised governing board policy on first reading, GCCE professional support staff conferences, visitations, workshops. Is there a motion to approve the revised governing board policy on first reading?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Board Member Oliver and seconded by Board Member Marquez. Is there any discussion? Nope. Okay, on the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is 12G, adoption of revised governing board policies on second reading. BCB, board member conflict of interest. BDA, board organizational meeting. BE, school board meetings. BEDA, notification of board meetings. BEDDB, agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the revised governing board policies on second reading?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Marquez. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made by Board Member Marquez and seconded by Board Member Oliver. Is there any discussion?
I do have a question. On the board member conflict of interest, what's the context for that change?
Yes.
These are all changes prompted by legislative changes that were made in the last legislative session.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Nope. All right. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is for information only and no action is required. 12H, correction of codification for new governing board policy, public concerns complaints about contracted safety services and law enforcement from KEE to KEDA. Due to Scrivener's error in the codification of the recently adopted governing board policy, the policy code was changed from KEE to KEDA. This item was informational only, and though no action is required, the new codification is acknowledged. And moving forward, item 3A, next meeting. The next regular meeting of the governing board is scheduled for Thursday, February 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. Item 13B, requests for future agenda items. Members, any items you would like to recommend?
Madam Chair, I have a quick one. If we could get an update on the broadband internet issue that was brought up today, that would be great. Thank you.
Duly noted, thank you. Board Member Oliver?
Yes, and also, I know the PXU Black Alliance gave us that report. I'd like to see if we could get a presentation from them on that report, delineating the things that are outlined in the report.
Yes, thank you so much. And for reference, it is perspectives, reflections, and lived experiences shared by PXU students, their parents, and staff that identify in the Black, African American, African diaspora. And it looks like it was completed December 2021. Thank you. Any further? Board Member Marquez.
Yes, Madam President. I would request that sometime between now and March, we have an agenda item specifically to discuss potential changes to the superintendent evaluation tool, so we can align it with the next permanent superintendent contract.
Thank you, duly noted. I have one question, actually just a point of clarity. It was brought to my attention that students who have long-term suspensions, who go from a comprehensive school or maybe even a small school that's in person, if they move to digital, their credits do not carry. I would like more clarification on that, and also looking at potential interventions to make sure that our students have an option in order to save their credits or recover those credits, and so that that semester of work is not lost. Any further items? All right. Item 13C, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Oh. Second. On the motion, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.